Okay, well, hello, my name is Martin Johnson, and I am here with Pastor Ryan Smithson at First Assembly of God Church here in Ventura. And now, Pastor Ryan, you are the worship ministry leader here at the church, and you've been in ministry about 10 years. You also do all of the administration here at the church. And I wanted to ask you some questions about leadership.
Cool.
Just initially, what caused you or brought you to be involved in leadership in ministry?
I think it's two things. It definitely has to do when it's ministry with a calling. So definitely I feel like there's a spiritual desire that God has put inside of me that wants to be involved in leadership and overseeing vision in the church and what the church is in their community. But it's also something I love doing. I love being able to present the gospel in a unique way to people and to encourage Christ followers, but also to share the message of Christ with others who don't know it in creative ways. And so I like leading the charge in that. I think that something that God just created me with was an eye for being creative and thinking outside the box on how to present the gospel and how to make it accessible or easy to understand for people, to speak to them in their own language.
That's great. If you were to pick what your leadership style would be, what would you say is your leadership style?
When I'm leading, definitely the thing that I put the most emphasis in is definitely encouragement. I believe that leaders will follow someone who lets them know, hey, I appreciate you, and not just in words, but in actions. I'm going to go out of my way to make sure that you understand that you're valuable to this church, you're valuable to this ministry. And so as a leader, that's one thing I always try to remember is that, my job, there's a huge aspect of my job is hear what happens in ministry at the church. But the people who are a part of the team are volunteers. They have their own families, their own ministries, their own lives, and they're giving up that time to support what God's doing here in the church. And so be mindful of that, to encourage and be sensitive of the leaders around you. And so I try to do that. I try to build teams. I definitely try to give people opportunity to take ownership of the area of ministry that they're involved in and bring their own unique creativity to the overall team.
Very good. Given your leadership over the last 10 years, what would you say has been the most rewarding thing about leadership in regards to how you've implemented that vision and helped people grow in their faith?
Definitely seeing volunteers and people who are given leadership roles when they take that and make it their own. And when I hear them say, I feel so alive, I'm so energized by what I see God doing with this gift or this area of ministry. The other thing too is with teaching, with music, but especially with teaching God's word. I love having opportunities to do that, teaching and preaching. And I love when people will come up to me afterwards and say, tell me those scriptures again. I want to find them and I want to put them on my fridge. I love seeing people hungry for scripture and kind of lighting that fire inside of them. And again, going back to what I said earlier, by sharing it in unique ways that they'll understand, that kind of speak to them at their level. I love seeing people just get it.
Very good. Now, you've been in leadership long enough to know that you have ups and downs.
Yes.
What would you say has been the biggest challenge in your leadership?
Honestly, working with other leaders. Everybody has different vision, and that's cool. But honestly, from the different ministry positions and opportunities I've had, probably the number one reason for any kind of tension or for people leaving the church, frustration has always been the relationship between leaders. Most of the time, even though people have their own stuff that they're going through in the church, normally it's not the people and the people on my team. Normally it's the fellow leaders in other departments tend to be the biggest struggle. Just seeing eye to eye.
Very good, interesting. One last question for you. As a leader, what advice would you give on how to balance your home life and your ministry life, just to maintain your sanity as you move forward?
I think it definitely depends. You have to see it as that your family comes first. It has to be. And while you have responsibilities of job and certain hours you need to be in the office, there has to be a Sabbath time. And so for me, I take Fridays, and 90% of my Fridays are like this holy time, and it's between me and my wife and my daughter. And we'll go do things that we enjoy doing as much as possible, but we protect that time like really hard. Even if someone's asking, please, can you help us out with this extra ministry or whatever. It's like, no, this is our time. This is sacred.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, hi, I'm Martin Johnson, and I'm here with Todd Thayer, who is was the former executive director of CAPS Channel 6 here in the city of Ventura, which is a nonprofit public television station in that sense, right, Todd?
Community media, yeah.
How many people did you supervise as the executive director?
It was a small company. There was, I think there were 6 of us, so it was myself and 5 others.
But you were governed by a board of directors?
Board of directors, 13.
And you had a contract with the city of Ventura, basically for
Right.
TV service for public
Correct.
access.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and you served 12 years. In your 12 years as the head executive director of that television station.
Right.
Well, first of all, just tell us, how did you get involved to be in television and get in that position?
I started when I was in high school. A friend of mine had a job fixing cables at a local television station, and he quit and told me about it, and I applied and started fixing cables in the maintenance shop, and then started running master control, helped build another facility down in Orange County, signed it on the air, came up to Oxnard and signed Channel 63 on the air, and just kind of worked my way up from part-time high school, fixing cables, to eventually doing design and construction of facilities, which the main reason they hired me at CAPS is they were getting ready to build what is now their media center. And so have always just basically, like some firefighters start the hand crews right out of high school, that's basically, I started right out of high school, working on cables and just worked my way up.
So you've been in the TV business and industry for many decades now.
30 years, yeah,
Okay.
more than a lot.
Well, when you were the director of CAPS, what would you say was your leadership style? How did you lead your people?
And that's a really interesting question, and looking back especially. My style tend to be very hands-off. I tend to lay out the goals and objectives, lay out the resources, make sure staff has the resources and the training, and then give them a nudge and let them go. There were some folks that wanted a little more hand-holding and a little more back and forth, and I could do that. But my style generally was to hire people who were self-starters, who knew their job, who understood what the goals and objectives were, and make sure that they had the resources and let them then do their job.
So you found yourself, not to put words in your mouth, but as kind of a cheerleader, encourager,
Well,
but at the same time, you kind of had to be the boss.
Well, probably not as much of a cheerleader or encourager as I could have been, or some of them would have liked me to be, because I had, especially in an organization that size, I had my own set of responsibilities. It wasn't a pure management role; it was very much a working management. So I had reports and things that go to the board. I did the primary design work and IT work and things, and so I think that my focus was as much on that as the big picture, some of the tactical stuff as well as the big strategic picture, and that really, I think some of my staff probably would have liked more encouragement from me.
Well, but as the leader, you are kind of the big picture guy, right?
Exactly.
So how did you communicate that big picture and establish that big picture?
And that really ended up being, most of my career was in commercial television, and the challenge, quite honestly, at a nonprofit, not only just from executive director to staff, but from executive director up to the board, getting the board to agree on what our vision was, what our mission was, and then taking that and flipping it down and pushing it down into staff with, making sure there were budgets and resources available. That's probably the biggest challenge, was making sure that everyone was on the same page, that we all agreed. And in the end, one of the reasons that I'm no longer there, they bought me out of my contract, is the board took a look at a strategic plan that we'd developed and said, we don't want to go that way anymore, we're going to go this way. A new board came in and changed directions. And so, that's one of I think the challenges really is to really have good communication at a strategic level, vision and mission, and then be able to translate that down for the rank and file. In a lot of ways, I think I was a better manager than I was an executive director, because, they wanted different things from me, or they felt they wanted different things from me than they were getting, and so it was easier, I think, to manage folks in the long run tactically than necessarily to interface with a board and deal with strategic stuff.
Well, very interesting. Todd, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure
You're very
talking
welcome.
to you.
Thanks.
And
Thanks for the
good to
interview.
talk to you again. Well, hello, I'm Martin Johnson, and I'm here today with John Hammer, who is the owner of Hammer Hewson and Associates here in Ventura, California. And essentially, he's been in the real estate investing and construction world for over 51 years. John, thanks for being with me here today. And I just have some questions on leadership and some other interesting facts for you. Can you just briefly describe what your company is, what it does, how many employees you have?
Okay, well, it's a company we started 51 years ago. By the way, let me look at that.
Sure, you can. No, you can look at me.
Oh, okay.
Whatever you want to do.
And we built investment properties, apartments, office buildings, industrial, and kept most of them, at least the large projects, and just have managed them all that time. We did it all from the 1964 to about 1978. We built a new project every 4 months. Got one started every 4 months, and in today's dollars, it would have been about $700 million worth of properties in 12 years. And then we decided we'll just keep them, manage them, and as an investment, and of course we get paid for managing it.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't really built anything for 25 years, but we at one time had 70 employees, and now we have 25.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And you had mentioned that some of your employees have been with your firm for decades.
Right.
You've had very little turnover. I think you told me that your newest corporate employee has been with the company for over 10 years.
Right.
So what's the secret to that success of employee retention?
Well, number one is to take a long time to interview, know what you want, take a long time to interview. Some cases we've interviewed 3 months, to get some of the real key ones. And once you get them, you have to treat them as if treat them very well. Give them a lot of responsibility and treat them well. Let them run their department. Don't be critical when they make mistakes. And then pay them well. They all get paid well. They all have a great medical plan. They have a wonderful retirement plan. And that's how you keep them.
Well, that sounds good to me. That works. What would you say are the key elements to starting and running a good company like you've done?
Well, first of all, you have to be willing to work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for about 10 or 15 years. If you're not willing to do that, you probably won't be successful. And then, in my case, it's a numbers game. I believe everything's about numbers and about people and about selling. The key is to get really good people that will allow you to work 51 years. And it's about creativity. And but the real key element is, to me, my style is people and number, getting really good people, letting them work, and then manage all the numbers. My son likes to tell me, you turn everything into a number, and that is my style.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You have that accountant perspective.
Well, in our company, we have, out of the 10 people in the corporate office, 3 are engineers. One's a CPA, one's got a degree in economics. And the 3 girls in the office, of course, in the accounting office, are all numbers people. So the corporate office is all about numbers and getting along with each other.
Interesting. Well, kind of the final question of our time here is, what would you say is your biggest challenge today as a leader in running your company?
Government. The healthcare plans are out of control, and we have a hard time managing it. And it's going to get a lot worse. The regulations, the taxes are beyond belief. So it's really all about regulation, and which is causing us to slowly want to phase out our business over time.
Interesting.
It gets easier every time we sell a building. It gets a little easier.
Wow, that's a very interesting perspective.
Right.
Well, John, thank you very much for being with me today. It's been fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.